still, an extra couple $100 in my pocket. So 2 months of doing this, literally over $700 right back to me. And this had nothing to do with winning a specific bet. I just kept placing wagers as often as I normally do. Some of them win, some of them lose. Whenever you win, you pull the money out of your sports betting app into your Edge Boost bank account, and then you have a Visa debit card for this Edge Boost bank account. And you just turn around and use your Visa debit card with Edge Boost. You load it right back into your sports betting app. You continue to place your bets. The next day you win some, you lose some, whatever you win, you pull it out, you put it in Edge Boost, then you put it right back into your sports book, whichever one that you intend to keep betting with. And if you're someone that bets very often, every single day or a few times a week, or if you're someone that tends to bet higher volume, if your typical unit size is 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures, even, I mean, you are literally just leaving money on the table by not utilizing Edge Boost and just taking money directly from your bank and sending it to the sports book. This is why you need to get an Edge Boost bank account set up. And then that way you can start earning cash back on all of these deposits. Every time you put money into a sports betting account, you're going to generate cash back from doing that. So visit edgeboost.bet to learn more about this and sign up for an account. The sign up is very fast and easy. These transactions, when you load money from Edge Boost to a sports book and vice versa, you send it back, they're instant. It works the exact same way that it does with your normal Visa debit card. And then in addition to that, none of these transactions ever get declined for gambling activity. So that does not happen with an Edge Boost account. These are FDIC insured bank accounts, totally legit. So check out edgeboost.bet to learn more and sign up today. So now we got that out of the way. Let's talk about this college football game yesterday.
Let's talk about it. By the way, NFL Blitzer on the text line saying, I heard the broadcast last night and I won. I'll take the Amazon gift card, which you have no choice, NFL Blitzer. You're getting the Amazon gift card and you're going to get those sport trade betting credits, just so you know. He also says, in addition, I missed my correct score of Ohio State versus Notre Dame last night, 30-24. Though, as far as guesses go, not a bad one.
Not a bad one at all. I mean, you got pretty dang close there. And I'm very upfront with the fact that I am by no means a college football expert. I really, it's not my thing the way that I consider NBA to be my thing. And I mean, I will put bets out there when they feel like good opportunities. But that's why you're not going to see, a ton of college football things from me. That's why a lot of the bets that I do put out there, pretty much leaning towards basketball, college basketball, WNBA. That's really kind of my realm of expertise. But I'm saying this because in this game last night, in this matchup between these two teams, you did not need to be an expert to be able to look at this and say, Ohio State is winning this game. Like, this truly was a matchup of, I mean, two good teams, but one team was just a whole nother realm of like better compared to the other one.
If you had to rank this college football playoff into like tiers of teams, you'd have Ohio State up top. I think you might actually, have Oregon up top. You'd probably have Texas up there with the way that they came into the playoff. And then the next grouping down, I think you make a strong case for ASU. I think near the bottom of that second group is probably where you'd have Notre Dame. It's just the way the bracket shook out, the better teams were on one side, and Notre Dame came out of that weaker side of the bracket. So that may be something for the college football playoff committee to consider as well. That when you seed these things, it's not just about the seeding, but it's just like one half of the bracket was the tougher half to come out of, the side that had Ohio State and Texas and Oregon and ASU. Like, that side was the tougher side. There's no getting away from Notre Dame played like Penn State. Like, that was a weaker team coming from a weaker side. Boise State, like, those teams were just weaker, and it looked like it. It showed in the national championship game.
Now, the actual pick from Beat the Book on this game yesterday, it was to take an alternate spread on Ohio State, and it was actually to push that spread out even more. I looked at the line at 8.5. That didn't feel large enough to me. Ohio State was so much better, in my opinion, than Notre Dame. It just seemed like there was no way that they were not going to win by a margin that was smaller than 10. So if you put this to 9.5, Ohio State has to win by 10 or more. That felt like the best value play. That was why I posted that. And then on the air yesterday, I was even more bold about this. I truthfully and I did play this personally. I was on Ohio State minus 13.5. I thought they'd get 2 touchdowns. I even had a smaller bet at 20.5. I didn't think it was that crazy for them to get up 3 touchdowns.
And quite frankly, at a certain point in that game, it sure felt like it, right?
Well, and there was a point where, I mean, they got up as much as 24. I had the opportunity to cash out both of these bets early into the third quarter. Had too much confidence in Ohio State to keep that margin, and Notre Dame started to turn things on. And in the third, they started to finally, get some traction on the defensive end, and forcing Ohio State to have to give up the ball. They even forced a fumble in one play. That was huge for them. They put up another 8 points in the third. They put up another 8 points in the fourth. And all of a sudden, at one point, the score was 31-7. Then it went all the way to 31-23. With like less than 5 minutes remaining, Ohio State's driving down the field, and Will Howard. I mean, this guy ended up getting MVP for a reason, but he has just a beautiful pass to Jeremiah Smith, who catches a ball that, this is thrown like ahead of him. So, I mean, he's not even looking at the ball. He just has to hold his hands out and kind of, hope he's like positioning himself right. But it just was
that's a drop in the bucket throw. I mean, call that
perfectly well timed, to the point where he didn't necessarily have to like slow down his run a little bit, but, it was enough to where the Notre Dame defenseman ended up catching him, and Ohio State was down within the 10-yard line, and that then forced them into a position where they were ultimately going to have to score, but they could leverage the clock and try and run it down as much as possible, so that they do happen to score, it makes it a 2-possession game, and then you're not leaving Notre Dame with any time to do anything about it. And that's exactly what they ended up doing. They got a field goal that put them up 34-23. That ended up being the final score. So Ohio State ends up winning by 11. Not the final margin I thought it was going to be, but good enough for 9.5. So we will gladly take that. Now, like I mentioned before, Will Howard, he won the offensive MVP of the game. There was a betting market on it. He was the favorite. So, an opportunity to win something there, but wasn't a very large return. Ohio State linebacker Cody Simon got the defensive MVP of the game. And then this is where things, I think, get a lot more interesting for me, and I think for you as well, Keon, because now that this game is done, the final AP college football rankings have come out that are the final rankings of all the teams that participated in the college football playoff, as well as the bowl games, and just doing one final, hey, here is the totem pole of college football. Here is where everyone stands. Ohio State, obviously number 1. You got Notre Dame number 2, Oregon number 3, Texas number 4, Penn State number 5, Georgia number 6, and your Arizona State Sun Devils number 7. Right behind them, Boise State number 8, Tennessee number 9, Indiana number 10. So on the one hand, I was a little stressed out that ASU was going to get left out of the top 10. That just seemed like kind of the normal, typical treatment that we would get in a poll like this. So to see ASU finally getting that respect in the top 7, even, I mean, really happy to see that. Keon, do you think that they got ASU right in this poll? Should ASU be number 7?
I think they should have been a little higher. I think for starters, you kind of judge teams based on where they are. There's a little, I don't know how much projection is happening here, but if you're going to say this is the final poll of this season, Georgia is not the same Georgia team that they were all year long. It just feels like they're getting that same credit that, and Pickledy's probably going to text us to be mad, but like they're getting that same credit for being the Georgia we saw all year long, when the Georgia we saw get run over by Notre Dame. That's a different school. That's when you have to go out there with Gunnar Stockton. With all due respect to him, I thought he had a great game for a sophomore being put in a difficult position. But when you have a game like that, it caused a lot of errors to be unforced errors that Georgia had. And they beat themselves in a lot of ways in that football game because they just didn't have the personnel to be the team that we know that they can be. Now, if we're going into next year, if we're saying this is a next year ranking, all right, fine, I'll take Georgia there. But if we're saying this is the poll for this season, and it certainly is, then I would bump ASU up a spot.
I have to agree with that. And you, That's a good point to make because up front, you kind of look at ASU behind a Georgia. I wasn't really picking that apart that much, but I mean, that is something to really keep in mind here. In that, if this is a reflection of how these teams were at the very end of, all the games played, as if, okay, if you pick any one of them and you got to put them on the field right now and like, how are they going to do? Like, that's what this ranking is supposed to reflect. So, yeah, I mean Georgia with Gunnar Stockton there, that is a different team than Georgia with Carson Beck. So I mean to
And
give
maybe next year's version of Gunnar Stockton's a different dude and elevates that team. And like a lot can happen between now and the next college football season because these kids grow up fast. So you got like the spring games and spring practices and all of that. But right now, not really.
doesn't feel like that. And you know what? I mean, if you want to go up to even like the top 3 right now, or even like the top 5, I definitely think that needs to be reworked a little bit. If this is kind of the context that we're framing these rankings under, how is Notre Dame number 2? We just explained how they just went through a significantly easier side of the college football playoff to get to that championship game. I think the real championship game was Ohio State versus Texas. Texas should be the number 2.
Yeah, you could make that argument. I do think that just being the team that actually got there, and if Notre Dame got there and embarrassed themselves, they just got run over completely, didn't offer any resistance. They were getting beaten pretty bad at a certain point in the game, but they did come back. And like you don't get to act like because they were getting run over in a half that's what happened. Like they lost by 11. They didn't lose by 25, which we've seen this happen in national title games. We've seen this happen with that team in a national title game. Went up against Alabama, 2013, whatever it was, like you just got crushed. That was an awful game. That's the kind of game where you tumble down 5 or 6 spots just because I understand that. Like I do think that like on like in reality, if you had those teams play each other head to head, Texas and or Oregon and Notre Dame, Texas and Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably loses to both of those teams, but I also think that they had a really good showing against the great Ohio State team, and usually you get that bump there and sit in that number 2 spot. So I'm not gonna, as a Longhorn fan,
I was going to try and fight that fight for you.
I understand, but I'm willing to let this go because like the thing that's mostly important to me is winning the national championship, and short of that, like this isn't the big slight that it could be. It's not like they had Texas at 10 or something. So,
well,
I'll live.
Outside of those rankings, there is to an extent another way that you can kind of look at this and really tie it to the betting market, because as of today, you can actually bet on who next year's college football championship winner is going to be. There is a market for this. There is a whole set of pricing. So you do already have odds makers' opinions about, the hierarchy of these teams and, to your point before, sort of a projection of how things are going to go next season when you're taking into account transfers, new freshmen coming in, anything that can ultimately impact a team and, change the product that's going to be on the field. So as of right now, and this is per FanDuel, you've got Ohio State as the favorite to win the championship next season. They're priced at plus 450, so 4.5 to 1. Texas and Oregon right under Ohio State at plus 650. Georgia's next at 7 to 1. Penn State plus 850, rounded out with Notre Dame at 12 to 1. And just if you're curious, ASU fans, your Arizona State Sun Devils are currently the 21st most likely team to win the national championship next season via FanDuel. They are priced at 85 to 1 odds. Now, in general, I don't like betting on these things, at least at this time in the year, because I don't have the patience to wait like a whole calendar year for this thing.
And
to
also,
play out.
a lot of things happen between now and then. People get, injured or what have you. And I'm not even talking about during the season. I'm talking about in the summer, like in the spring. Like they have practices. Like we've seen it happen in the past where guys tweak an ankle or something like that, and maybe they don't play. Maybe they don't miss the entire year, but they miss a game or two, and that kind of upsets the apple cart of your national championship aspirations or whatever it might be. So I wouldn't bet on it now just because it doesn't seem particularly wise. You just don't have all the information. You don't know who else ASU is going to be able to get in the transfer portal or who they might lose in the transfer portal. Like there's just a whole lot of unknown between now and even the start of the season. at least wait till the start of the season. You'll have a clearer picture at that point. And then if you still really like ASU, you go ahead and jump on it, man.
Well, and barring something really crazy and unforeseen, I mean, these odds, you're not going to see a ton of movement on this
No.
stuff between now and the start of the season. So, but it is fun to just kind of keep an eye on it, see what the opinions are right now. In addition to that betting market, there's actually one for the Heisman Trophy. And normally, I think for the Arizona schools, it just doesn't feel as relevant because it just is so far and few in between of when we have potential Heisman candidates on either school, if you're a U of A fan or an ASU fan. But ASU fans, we all know the potential of Sam Levitt. And you take a look at this Heisman market right now, the favorites are actually tied between Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning at plus 850, so 8.5 to 1. But you scroll down this list a little bit, and you see Sam Levitt priced at 33 to 1. And ironically, same exact pricing as Gunnar Stockton, also 33 to 1.
That feels disrespectful to me. The 33 to 1 kind of makes sense because there is a little bit of, if you live here and you watch the Sun Devils throughout the year, like, you knew what Sam Levitt was about. You knew what that guy could be pretty quickly in the season. Like, he's just, he's very accurate, fiery competitor, strong arm, the mobility as well. He's kind of shifty in the open field. Like, you know what Sam Levitt can be if you live here. But so, like, his odds being 33 to 1, that doesn't feel disrespectful in any way. But Gunnar Stockton has literally a game under his belt and he lost it. Like, that's not, I don't understand how we got Gunnar Stockton being treated the same way. And maybe Gunnar Stockton surprises a lot of people and surprises me next year by coming out there and having that growth during the off season. He's young. Like I said, like, a lot of these guys, like, you can have them look one way as a sophomore, and then as a junior, it's just a complete evolution of that person. But I'd have to see it first before I felt comfortable saying, yeah, Gunnar Stockton, same kind of quarterback as Sam Levitt. I don't buy that right now at all.
No, and I mean, if you want to kind of sort of back your way into this, like, what kind of a season would it take from Sam Levitt and ASU to catapult him to the top of this and make him the most likely candidate? ASU's probably going to have to go undefeated or one loss, maybe two loss, if Sam Levitt is just an absolute stud, every single game. But the thing that makes me hopeful about this is just the way that he really rose to the occasion. Every high stakes game that we played, whether that was the Big 12 championship, whether that was the game against Texas in the college football playoff, he is so much more of a proven commodity than a guy like Gunnar Stockton. So to have him at 33 to 1, that's actually something that I could see changing between now and the start of the college football season. Once there's a better idea of what these rosters are going to look like, and how these teams are ultimately going to play, Sam Levitt could be a guy that, come the start of the college football season, he could be closer to that 20 to 1 neighborhood. I could see it.
It's definitely possible. So we've got NBA stuff that we've got to get to. Big Jake on the text line saying, you can't tell me that after that first Notre Dame drive, you didn't think Notre Dame could hang and keep it a low scoring slugfest. 9-minute drive. My plus 346 Notre Dame money line looked great after that first drive and then fizzled out. And like Notre Dame did. Okay. Dylan's got his hand up like Randy Moss. Throw me the ball.
Leonard was like puking his brains out on the sideline after that first drive. Yes, it was impressive. No, I was not worried because Ohio State didn't even have an opportunity to get on the offense because that drive took so long. And then very shortly after the fact, you were very validated in, staying confident on the Ohio State side. They showed it much faster than Notre Dame did in terms of how much better their offense was versus that defense.
Yeah, and the thing with the first drive, it was a really impressive drive. But the reason why you don't overreact to that is, to me, I like to see both teams possess the football first before I start thinking about what's the direction that this game is going to go in. Notre Dame possessed the ball, had a long drive. I have no way of knowing whether or not they can do it again. I have no way of knowing whether or not Ohio State is capable of responding in either exactly the same way or a different way, like scoring faster, which they did. So I didn't. Like, you don't overreact after one drive, Big Jake. And I know that, Notre Dame, you felt really good about it. And you had plenty of good reason to start off feeling good about it. I think just being a fan that's part of the experience. But I don't think that it makes any sense to just go ahead and overreact because the opening drive was really good. So now I'm starting to shake in my boots in the first quarter. It just doesn't work that way.
The live line at that time, it literally moved to like 6.5 favoring Ohio State still. You know, when it closed at 8.5.
Yeah, because a lot of people were like,
it.
okay, yeah, now is just the time to see if we can cash in on the fact that Notre Dame has some momentum. Maybe we bet even more on Ohio State. You could see it happening in real time. Baker's Cocky Hen says Buckeyes rolled. Sadly, I kept making quarter bets and losing. Now I need some luck and good juju from everyone. Finished tied for first in the Vison contest, going 11-0. Random drawing tomorrow determines who wins the 5K. Baker's Cocky Hens, we're sending you all the positive energy that we possibly can. And then NFL Blitzer says, in addition, I missed my correct score of Ohio State versus Notre Dame 32. I don't know why it sent me that a second time. I think you already said that, NFL Blitzer. So yeah, no, appreciate you guys weighing in on that. And now it's time to talk about the Phoenix Suns because they still got a lot of problems. And like Lucy, they got a lot of splaining to do. So we'll get to that right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Sports betting apps are not created equal. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here to talk about the Sport Trade advantage. With higher payouts, Sport Trade is the ultimate sports betting experience. Sport Trade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's changing in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sport Trade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sport Trade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sport Trade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Whether you're tinkering in your garage or tackling big projects, if you know the value of working with your hands, you know Harbor Freight. And you can be confident knowing that at Harbor Freight, you can get quality tools at prices that work just as hard as you do. Because the only thing more satisfying than a job well done is a job well done, well under budget. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes. So it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
There's something you can do today that will impact all your tomorrows. Open an AZ 529 Education Savings Plan. Contribute just $50 a month, and you'll have nearly $20,000 by your child's high school graduation, or as a great start towards your own education savings. Your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. Learn more at az529.gov. Do it today for all your tomorrows.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
Will Shakespeare here. Back in my day, I invented over 1,700 slang words like swagger, bedazzled, and my personal favorite, besmirch. But even I have trouble understanding slang words like yeet or bougie or
This is fire.
actually, it is extremely smooth Shakespeare vodka.
Okay, boomer.
See what I mean? But there is one word that describes the pure quadruple distilled spirit crafted from an 8th century Polish recipe the first time you try it.
So lit.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Shakespeare vodka. So lit.
1580 The Fanatic.
And at 1580thefanatic.com.
Your home for sports.
So I missed the text. 9297 text line kind of jumped around on me. He says jazz, because he starts every text with jazz. I don't understand why. We'll probably, is that an attempt at a texter nickname, 9297? Because you do need a texter nickname, 9297. As always, on 1580 The Fanatic, you want to interact with the show? Well, we love to have you here, but also, going to need something from you. Gonna need that Texter nickname. But he also says only 5 NBA games today. Need a parlay winner. Well, we got the long shot parlay coming up in segment 3, so maybe stick around for that and see what we can get you. But talking about the NBA, Dylan, we've got the Suns, and they played yesterday, MLK Day. They were on during our show, and they were, if we're just going to be blunt and honest about this, getting their asses kicked by the Cavs, and it was disappointing from top to bottom.
Oh, extremely disappointing. And by the way, anyone that is listening to this that is looking for betting picks, whether that's, the NBA, college basketball tonight, if you're looking for a potential parlay, check out the Beat the Book website. There is a long shot parlay on there. That one is 107-1. We're going to break that down in the third segment. But if you're looking for something that is a lot more conservative, has a lot less risk, it's going to, be a little bit more likely to give you a payout, check out the top 2 picks of the day, as well as the other bets to consider. These are 10 recommended bets in addition to the long shot parlay. And on any given day, those top 2 picks, the other bets to consider, I am very commonly making 2 and 3 leg parlays out of combinations of those picks. So those bets are there. Check out the Beat the Book site. You can Google Beat the Book Fanatic or Beat the Book Dylan Cohen. Either one of those things will bring up the website. You'll see each post for each given day. So check out the post for January 21st. That's where you're going to see all the picks that we recommend for tonight. Now, getting back to the Phoenix Suns, the Suns took on the Cavs yesterday, and it was a little bizarre because it was actually going on during our show. That doesn't happen very often. NBA had the whole MLK Day slate of games yesterday, which started at 10 in the morning, went all the way till 8 at night. And the Suns took on the Cavs, early afternoon game. And this is one where, this was like the number 1 Beat the Book pick yesterday, was for the Suns to cover a 10.5 point alternate spread, because it just seemed like after we pulled off this trade for Nick Richards, we were on a 2-game winning streak, building up some positive momentum. We had Bradley Beal get back into the lineup as well. Meanwhile, on Cleveland's side, they were without Evan Mobley, as well as one of their top defenders in Isaac Okoro. So, with all these things coming into play, the line was about 8.5 favoring Cleveland. So I was recommending pushing that out, making it a little bit more conservative. The Suns can lose by up to 10 points. You'll still end up winning that bet. And the Suns didn't just lose by 10 points. They lost by 26 points. And that is us at full strength with our new starting center, Nick Richards, who did start at center, going up against a shorthanded Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, the Cavaliers are historically good. They've got a 21-2 home record right now. But they were missing a very big piece in Evan Mobley and a very crucial contributor in Isaac Okoro. So it really doesn't seem that reasonable for us to still lose by the margin that we lost by. This is like pulling your hair out, beyond frustrating, just when you think you have, something positive going. And we've always been upfront about the fact that the Suns need to add some more pieces. This can't be the final, group of guys that you're working with here. Yesterday's game is just continued validation of that. If we cannot compete with the Cavaliers as shorthanded as they were yesterday, even if it was on the road, that doesn't make a big difference to me. This game should serve as a tremendous red flag. This is a team that has championship aspirations, has aspirations of at least overachieving in the playoffs compared to last season. And if you can't even get within 10 points of a shorthanded Cleveland Cavaliers team, you are just really lacking any chance at all of making noise in the postseason. So none of this is really new, though. This is just more of the same kind of miserable carousel that,
same song, different verse, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've just been stuck in this for weeks now. It's unfortunate, but these are the kinds of things that need to happen to continue to drive momentum towards the Suns pulling off another trade. And we've spoken at length about Jimmy Butler on this show. That is still an ongoing saga as well, but there is a little bit of news that came out there. Jimmy Butler has continued to have meetings with the Miami Heat ownership. He apparently triple downed today on his request to be traded, which led to productive conversations for once, instead of it being completely adversarial where Jimmy's just getting suspended so they can create some distance.
I think that Jimmy's gotten the point across that he does have enough leverage in this situation. You're going to have to take him seriously. I do think that there was a level of where, Pat Riley and Mickey Loomis thought they were going to get this thing under control. And you can't get Jimmy Butler into control. That's the point.
And then meanwhile, and this is where it's still tough because we're early in the season, we're not halfway through yet. The trade deadline is February 6th, and you take a look at the standings today, and if the playoffs started today, the Suns do make the play-in. They have a 500 record. If you want to break this down to the actual division, and you take a look at the Pacific Division standings, this is a very close division right now. And I'm trying to pull up the division standings here. This is going really slow. The Suns are, less than 5 games out of first place right now in the division. This division itself is separated by a handful of games. It's still anyone's to come out and win. So, it's still tough for the Suns to do anything definitive. I don't want to see the team just blow this thing up yet, but I would still maintain that if there's absolutely no moves to make with Bradley Beal and it just looks like your options are you're stuck, no, you're not stuck, then that is the time to pivot and let's start seeing what kind of returns we can get for Durant and Booker. Because again, if we don't do anything, we know exactly where this leads. And that's just going to be another prolonged sentence in the NBA's doghouse where we're just spinning our wheels and we're not making any real progress towards getting back to being the elite team that, we've been over the last 3 to 4 years. So the Suns are going to be playing later on this week. Do you happen to have the schedule pulled up in front of you?
I can get it here yeah. So the Suns this week, they've got Brooklyn tomorrow. And then they've got Washington on Saturday. So they'll be at Brooklyn, but they'll be back here in Phoenix playing the Wizards on Saturday. And then Monday next week, they'll have the Clippers here at home.
So, it's like we've got some cupcakes coming up. Kevin Durant getting to go to Brooklyn. This Brooklyn team is not a team that we can afford to lose to. If we were to lose that game, that's coming back to, where we were, going into the Wizards game last week, where, you just don't even want to deal with the reality of where we're going to be at if we don't go into Brooklyn and win that game.
Yeah. And because you don't want to, what that says about you as an organization where you are right now is nothing good. If you can't beat the Nets, teams like the Nets, teams like the Wizards, like these teams are so bad and not even remotely competitive that if you lose to those teams, and like they should have beaten the Wizards worse than they did, to be honest with you. But if you lose to those teams, it's hard to say to your fan base, to the players on that roster, this is a championship team. You might lose the locker room at any point. And while you want to be bad enough to be able to make moves and see if you can improve before the deadline, you don't want to be so bad that you're basically signaling to everybody, we're not doing anything this year.
So we will be continuing to follow the Suns and hopefully they can, get some more wins under their belt. And hopefully there's some more traction on these Jimmy Butler conversations. And speaking of Jimmy Butler, he is back with the Miami Heat. He did take on the Denver Nuggets last week. That was last Friday when we were going over that game. And he ended up being a little bit more productive on the offense than I expected. That was a really bizarre situation. It looks as if the players really do still embrace him and they can coexist for now. So Jimmy Butler is going to remain on the bench. He will continue to start and play. And the Miami Heat are taking on the Portland Trailblazers tonight at home. And I just want to point out the fact that you go to Jimmy Butler's line on points for this game, and it's pretty high right now. It's 17.5. And you take a look at what he's done since he's been back on the court. Yes, he did technically go over that line against Denver last Friday. He scored 18 points in that game. But the following game they played, that was on Sunday against the San Antonio Spurs, the Miami Heat cruised to an easy win. They won by 21 points. And Jimmy only played 28 minutes. He scored 8 points. And I watched the game against Denver on Friday. The way that they use Jimmy Butler now is not the way that they historically used Jimmy Butler in the postseason and in years in the past. He literally gets stuffed in the corner. Tyler Hero is really that number one primary scoring option. And then they try and leverage Jimmy in ways where, He's always crashing the basket when the shot goes up. Maybe he's there for a second chance opportunity, or, if the ball's kind of getting moved over to the opposite side of the court, he'll kind of run closer to the basket. It might be open if someone, goes for a drive. So it really is as if he's been kind of relegated on the floor to this sort of third, option. And that doesn't feel like something, at least on the makeup of that team, that Jimmy could respect. If he's the third option behind, Booker and Durant, I think that's a completely different context. He has respect, for what those guys have accomplished. And, if he were potentially moved to the Suns, he'd be kind of the new guy, around. He's not going to come in and just expect to be the number one option. But the Heat are playing in a way that is turning Jimmy Butler off. So when he comes and he says, oh, well, I don't really have joy on the court anymore, I actually don't blame him. That isn't him in being entirely dramatic. That's literally the way that Miami is using him right now.
And by design, they don't want him to be happy. They are punishing him in a roundabout sort of way. And also, the more out of the game he is, the more out of the limelight he is. And the more out of the limelight he is, the less of a distraction he becomes when he gets a microphone in front of his face. And that's really all that Miami's strategy is right now. Just kind of pacify Jimmy long enough to get him out the damn building.
Now, I think what kind of bumped this lineup for Jimmy is that about 30 minutes ago, it came out that Tyler Hero is questionable for this game tonight. He's got some groin tightness. But this is also the kind of thing where they could just be gaming the injury report here. That's not a definitive anything. You're just really not going to know until closer to game time. I'm going to be looking to play the under on Jimmy's line tonight at 17.5. If Tyler Hero doesn't play, that doesn't necessarily mean Jimmy's getting all the shots. There's other guys there: Terry Rozier, Alec Burks, Jaime Jaquez. I mean,
Jaime's been killing it lately.
Well, and they will be very creative in the ways that they look to replenish that offense if Tyler Hero isn't there, and it won't be through Jimmy. So that's where, 17.5, that's generous. You could look to take the under on Jimmy Butler's points. And then in addition to that, make sure to check out the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets game tonight. That is another opportunity to back Mikal Bridges and his points. I did put him under the other bets to consider for 17 or more points. He has averaged over 21 points per game in 2 games against the Nets this season, and that is Mikal's former team. This game is going to be in Brooklyn. So, not much travel for the Knicks. They are on the second night of a back-to-back. But being on the second night of a back-to-back, they tend to lean into their energy guys. That's OG Anunoby. That's Mikal Bridges. Josh Hart normally is one of those people, but he is dealing with an injury there, as well as Karl Anthony Towns. So this is going to be a great spot to look for Mikal Bridges to score tonight. On the other bets to consider, I have him for 17 or more. He's also included in the long shot parlay, and we're going to break that down in segment 3.
Yeah, we're going to get there in just a second, but taking one quick look at the text line, you got Baker's Cocky Hands talking about some of the NBA bets. A parlay that did not exactly work out. He said, Trae Young, 30 points, Jalen Brunson, 30 points, Desmond Bane, 18 at 20-1. Trae killed me, even had a last 3 to cash with less than 20 seconds left, and he missed. So sorry to hear
hurts.
that.
No, because Ice Trae in the Garden, like that's a great spot to take for 30.
That almost never fails. You got Donnie on the text line talking a little NFL, saying your Commanders at plus 6.5. That's free money. I think so too. I don't know. The doubt keeps rolling in, and I don't know that I always feel confident that the Commanders are going to win, mostly because I'm just not used to them winning. But I do feel confident that they're going to cover and be in these games, and these lines just seem to blow up in the opposite direction. I don't know why. So hey, if you like the cover there, I'm kind of with you. T-Licious says, I missed my son's parlays from 3 years ago. Booker points, CP3 assists, and Marshmello Ayton rebounds. Suns to cover and the over. Made lots of money back then.
Oh, like Mikal Bridges 2 threes. Yeah, like he was like good for 2
just
threes,
go ahead
like
and sprinkle some of that in there.
Oh,
yeah, man.
those were the
T-Licious. Living in the past. So we'll talk about hopefully more fun things than the Suns right now, and more fun things than remembering that the Suns used to be much more fun than this to watch. With the long shot parlay coming up next right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Hey guys, Jeffrey O'Brien here. Did you know Harman Solar has gone super high tech? There's an amazing tool at harmansolar.com that'll give you an instant ballpark solar estimate using satellites from space. You just type in a little information, and within seconds, you'll have an idea of just how little money it takes to save big on that monthly electric bill. I did it, and within seconds, they measured my roof and calculated my savings. It's very impressive. Go to HarmonSolar.com and give it a try yourself. That's HarmonSolar.com.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-week challenge. The Metamucil 2-week challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
My pain is considerable, but that prescription is dangerous.
The side effects of my medicine are worse than my condition.
I'm in recovery. I can't take those pills.
When faced with a health crisis, you shouldn't have to choose between risks.
At the Naturopathic Physicians Group in Scottsdale, our medical doctors are experts in full spectrum care using a natural approach. Patients come in for a variety of issues, including joint pain, chronic conditions, and issues specific to men's and women's health. Our naturopathic doctors can restore pain-free joint function and restore balance in immune, digestive, and hormone systems, which often improves immediate physical symptoms without having you take a bunch of pills. If traditional medicines aren't working, don't you think it's time to start feeling like yourself again? Call Naturopathic Physicians Group at 480-451-6161. That's 480-451-6161. Or go to naturopathicgroup.com.
Now, you can be the guy that eventually gets bits and pieces of the latest news.
Or you can get the whole story when it breaks.
The NFL is always in season here.
That's how we do it.
Follow us on Facebook or Twitter. Or at 1580thefanatic.com.
So we do have some NBA action tonight, and there's enough opportunity in the action tonight to maybe come away with a big winner chicken dinner. Dylan, what's the long shot parlay looking like?
So long shot parlay for today. It's got 4 legs. And when I put this together earlier this morning, it was paying 107-1 odds. And I used Fanatics Sportsbook to make this just because Fanatics lets you be a little bit more flexible and where you're drawing the line on certain player props. You should be able to put this together on FanDuel once FanDuel comes out with their alternate points props. Those typically aren't available until much closer to game time. So there might be some potential for shopping this around, but at the very least, you should be able to create this on Fanatics Sportsbook. So 4 legs pays 107-1 odds. If you put $5 on it at 107-1, and this thing ends up winning, then you're walking away with $535. So I'm going to break this down. The first leg is Max Christie, who plays for the LA Lakers, to score 15 or more points. Then we need Denny Avdia, who plays for the Portland Trailblazers, to score 21 or more points. Then we need Mikal Bridges on the Brooklyn Nets to score 22 or more points. And the final leg is for the Miami Heat to defeat the Portland Trailblazers by 18 or more points. So starting off with Max Christie for 15 or more points. Max Christie is currently averaging 13 points per game right now in January, and he's also getting just over 32 minutes per game. So he's getting a lot of playing time, a lot of reps, bigger than normal role on the offense. JJ Redick is really trying to, see what the Lakers have in Max Christie. They want to take him away from being this project that's been on the bench to something that's a lot more established that can contribute. And what's going for Max Christie and the Lakers tonight is they're taking on the Washington Wizards at home. And the Wizards are the worst defensive team in the NBA, on top of also owning the worst record in the league. Now, Max Christie has scored 15 or more points once in his last 3 games. So we're not asking him to do something that he's not already doing. And he's going to have a great opportunity to score, taking on, again, the worst defense in the NBA at home. And the Lakers are also just looking for a win here. So look for them to play hard tonight. Max Christie should be a big part of that offense. You can take him for 15 or more. Deni Avdija for 21 or more points. Deni Avdija currently averaging over 17 points per game in the month of January, and he has scored 20 or more twice in his last 4 games. He actually just faced the Miami Heat about 10 days ago, and he scored 15 points in that game. But you have to keep in mind, that was off a terrible shooting performance. He shot only 35% from the field. So he gets a second crack at the Miami Heat on the road. And if he can shoot somewhere closer to 50% compared to that 35%, he's going to be in a great spot to be able to get 21 or more points. Then you've got Mikal Bridges for 22 or more. And I did talk a little bit before the break about how this is a good spot for Mikal with the Knicks on the second night of a back-to-back. He tends to be a guy that can play a lot of minutes, has a lot of energy. Those back-to-backs aren't going to mess with him as much. And he actually only played 27 minutes last night against the Hawks. I think there was a little bit of intention there from Tom Thibodeau to keep him a little extra fresh for, a game against his old team in the Brooklyn Nets. And then you take a look at what Mikal Bridges has been doing lately. He's been averaging over 18 points per game on the season. He's actually managed to score 23 or more points 3 times in his last 4 games. So, with this being a revenge game for him against the Brooklyn Nets, with the Knicks being on the second night of a back-to-back, currently having guys like Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns dealing with some injuries, look for Bridges to get a bigger role on the offense tonight. And he should be good to be putting up, over 20 points. We'll take him for 22 or more. The final leg on here, Miami Heat to win by 18 or more points. We talked about this a little bit before when we were going over the, Jimmy Butler situation. The Heat are 1-1 since Jimmy Butler returned to the team. They're coming off a 21-point win against the San Antonio Spurs, which came at home this past Sunday. They just faced the Portland Trailblazers in Portland 10 days ago during a road trip when Jimmy Butler was away from the team, and they managed to win that game by 21 points. Now, the Portland Trailblazers tonight, they're going to be without Donovan Clingan. They could also be without Robert Williams, Anthony Simons, and Chris Murray. All 3 of those guys are questionable. So, look, if they're out, great. That gives the Heat an even greater chance to cover that 18-point spread. Even if those guys play, you have to remember that Portland is just one of those teams that isn't necessarily looking to win games this year. They're a lot more focused on developing the guys on the team. That's especially why Scoot Henderson has been getting a lot of starts for them lately. Again, they're not coming into these games to win. They're coming into these games to develop, figure out who on their team they want to keep, who they might be possibly looking to trade before the deadline. And for them to be without Donovan Clingan in this game, there's an argument to be made right now that Donovan Clingan is actually their best center. He tends to play behind DeAndre Ayton because that would probably start some big kind of ego dispute with Ayton if he had to go play behind Clingan.
And we know Ayton can be a little pouty and
he's sensitive. Yeah. He's sensitive to that kind of stuff. But if you look at this on paper, like Donovan Clingan comes in, plays a fraction of the time Ayton does, and like out rebounds him. His offensive side isn't as fine-tuned yet as Ayton's is, but that's something that can be improved upon throughout the season.
Yeah, that's another reason I think they're bringing him along slow.
Exactly. So, Clingan not being there, that could actually be a bigger impact compared to when they took on Portland, very recently, and he did play, and they still won by 21 points. So that is the long shot parlay. Those are the picks. Make sure you check out the Beat the Book website to see all of the other bets that are posted on there. There are 8 other bets to consider. There are the top 2 picks for the day. There is a college basketball play on there. I am recommending to take the Wisconsin Badgers on the spread. They are priced as a 4-point underdog playing at UCLA today. And you take a look at this UCLA team over the last 5 games, they've only got 1 win. And meanwhile, you take a look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been playing extremely well. They are currently on a winning streak, and they just recently traveled to USC and got a pretty easy win by 15 points. So look for Wisconsin to at least cover a 4-point spread. They could very well win that one. That's all I got, Keon.
And that's going to do it for us. And one thing that we're going to continue to keep an eye out for, by the way, over the course of this week is this Jimmy Butler saga, man. Like, it just looks like it's heating up in a way that it can't go on much longer. And I don't know what that necessarily means for Jimmy Butler, but what it could mean for the Phoenix Suns is perhaps a fresh start, an opportunity to get this season back on track and get themselves in a much more competitive place, because despite where they are, they're not out of the playoff hunt even remotely. Just maybe keep that in mind. So this has been Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic. Check out Beat the Book on the 1580 The Fanatic website. The Daily Blender, that's coming up next.